Um, and then she smiles. My story is a bit different. I feel like I'm on the other side of the spectrum. But anyway, I will share my truth and my pain, as they said. And yeah. Um, it's 2012. It's 2012. I'm doing my second year at varsity, and I wake up after a rough night, and I can feel myself, you know. Ladies, sometimes when, we get a little rough in the bedroom in the morning, you're like, okay. And then I'm confused. I'm confused. I have very little sexual experience. So I'm like, I'm not supposed to feel this. Fast forward, I go to the doctor, and then she tells me, no, it's just a little thrush. It's nothing serious. She gives me antibiotics, and it's still not okay. When I go and have the encounter with my partner, it's still very painful. I go back to the clinic and she says, no, let's go to a gynecologist. I go to a gynecologist and she says to me, nothing is wrong. I'm like, no, it can't be because it's still not right. She's like, okay, let's do tests. The tests are done and everything comes back and it's clean. And then eventually they suggest therapy because apparently this is all in my mind. It's all in my mind. It can't be all in my mind. I mean, I'm there and I'm feeling what I'm feeling. So how is it all in my mind? So eventually, that's the reason I ended up in therapy. So we call my father Gaddafi at home. And the reason we call my father Gaddafi is because I come from a military home. Everything is structured. Appointments are set in the house. If there's something that you need money for, you write a letter. You validate. Why do you need money for this? You understand? And for that, I became a disciplined child. I've always been a disciplined child. I've done everything by the book, everything by structure. My grades were always good. It was not necessarily a bad thing. So even if you're going to be beaten, we give you chance one, chance two. The third chance will beat you because, we've been giving you chances, right? So everything had always had an answer. There was always, the reason we do this is because of this. Even, like they would say, we gave you chance one, we gave you chance two, now, it's what it is. And as a child, that is the kind of mentality that I had. Everything is structured. So even at that point, I'm having this sexual encounter, I'm doing everything right. So why did I wake up feeling the way that I'm feeling? You understand? She says to me that it's in my head. When we delve deeper into it, we actually realize that I actually had another encounter years back where this person hurt me. And when this person hurt me, when I went home, I had to now get back to my structure. I had to now get in the house and pretend like this thing hadn't happened. I couldn't go to my mom and tell him, that system that we use, it has been disrupted because, number one, I was not even supposed to be there because the structure and the system in the house said, when you're done with school, you come back from school. But because as a child, I knew that I was not supposed to be there, immediately my mind took it and it packed it away. Somebody said earlier on that the mind doesn't forget, and my mind doesn't forget. My mind stores everything in a box. It labels it, it highlights it, it does, and that's just how my mind is. So from that encounter in the morning, whether we did something wrong, whether we did something right, I was back at the stage where I felt that this is that day, and that day was not dealt with, and now I have to deal with it. Physically, I was fine, but mentally, my brain was saying, girl, you have to talk about this now. And that's how I learned about my brain. Ladies and gentlemen, this story is about my brain. It is about my brain and how I've tried to understand it and how I've tried to overcome it. And to this day, I still have problems with myself, but now I understand that it's not just my fault. Maybe Gaddafi has a play in it, but Gaddafi's intentions were not bad. But the way that he has structured my life as a child is now affecting me as an adult. Fast forward, I have a panic attack. We don't take it serious. I mean, we are in varsity, it's the pressure, we decide. It's a panic attack, it happens. I mean, people get overwhelmed all the time. We ignore it. Fast forward, I am now an intern at the Department of Higher Education Training, and I'm working in the minister's office. As you can understand, it's a high pressurized environment, and I am feeling a lot of pressure. I remember it was during the very, very beginnings of Fees Must Fall. All the calls are coming in, people are swearing, and it's disrupting my structure, because I have a structure. I'm the one that does lists. I list everything. Not physically sometimes, but everything is a list. I cannot brush my teeth before I bath. There's just certain things I cannot do. And that's because I've learned, through my childhood, these things I've learned. And because they always produce the positive result, there was nothing wrong with it. So now I'm in an environment where I cannot control everything. You understand? I'm by myself, and I do not have someone to say, Mama, that system that we use that says 1, 2, 3 is not working now, because it's not just me and you and Baba and the other kids in the house. You understand? I'm in this place where everybody's an adult and everybody feels like they're supposed to do everything that they're doing is right in their sense. So I'm young, I'm confused. Don't take it to heart. But eventually I end up in hospital. And because I had a blackout, just had a blackout because everything was just too much and it happened. So the lady that is on call says to me, I need you to see a psychiatrist and I need you to see an optometrist. The optometrist prescribes the spectacles but what was important was the conversation I had with the psychiatrist. Mind you guys, this entire time I think I'm perfect. Ne? I did well at school. Azanga jump on my fancy. I was even afraid of having sex at one point because, I need to maintain my perfectness. Church, I could talk about Shimani, it's structure, it's discipline, it's obedience, it's loyalty, you understand? And it was important to me because that's how I grew up. I grew up knowing that these checks and balances are important. And if you do them right, you get a positive outlook. Like if Nikki Pasa Sharp, my dad would, do something nice. And I took that with me as an adult thinking that is how life works. Oh boy. Oh boy. You enter into a relationship and you think if I do everything right, it means that he will do everything right. But humans are not structured in that way. Not in the level that I thought anyway. So the psychiatrist, we have a brief conversation and then he asks me, so Des, what do you do for fun? I'm like, fun? Oh, sometimes I sit in front of the TV, but that's if I have time. Sometimes I do my nails, but 50 Rand as an intern is a lot of money, And then he's like, doesn't it bother you that you don't have anything that you do for fun? I'm like, this man, I'm doing everything right. I'm paying my own rent. I'm buying my own food. I'm clothing myself. What does he want? I'm doing everything. Why does it have to be fun if I'm doing everything right? And then he says to me, the reason that it's bad is because you are sidelining yourself. You are living in a world where your boss dictates everything, your boyfriend dictates everything, your parents are dictating everything, and you're sidelining yourself. I'm sidelining myself. Okay, but me, and when I do all these nice things, I feel nice inside. Yeah, they are for other people, but I still feel nice inside, you know? Fast forward, he diagnoses me with an adjustment disorder. They call it Obsessive-Compulsive personality disorder. And then he says to me, because you compulse over everything, that is how you get anxious. If everything is not going right, that's how you end up with anxiety. At that moment, I still don't understand what's wrong because I still feel now I'm doing everything right, you know? And then he says antidepressants, eventually I leave them. I'm like, "Ugh, okay, fine." But fast forward, fine, I got diagnosed and medication. I just take it when I can because in my brain, I still feel like I'm doing everything right. So fast forward, I end up being single out of that relationship that I had been all this time. When I was home, it was my father. When I was varsity, it was my boyfriend. When I got to work, it was my boss. So now I'm missing a leg because my boyfriend is now gone. My father is in Limpopo. And the only place I have some kind of authority that dictates what I'm supposed to do is at work. So if I'm not at work, what am I doing at home? You sit there and you're like, okay, I have all this time. What do I do with all this time? I was 22 years old and I didn't know who I was because for many years I had been living a life that was dictated by an authoritative figure that told me what to do. So you can imagine my anxiety went. I would get home, I have all this free time. What do I do with it? Do I even like eating? Do I like the food? Because obviously we went out lunches, but I never really chose anything because what was important was the person next to me was supposed to be happy. So what do I do with all this time? So now that conversation that I had with my psychiatrist comes back. What do I do for fun? I had to now start understanding that there's more to life than just lists. There's more to life than rigidness. There's more to life than making your dad happy. Got on the phone, told my mother. My mother has no clue, obviously. My mother is concerned about fetch a internship, Sissy, and then, get your life in order, get a job, all of that. Because what? We are a family of lists. Then, by faith, I meet somebody that starts teaching me about how to control and how to use your mind. He says to me, because you're so concerned with how your mind works, then use it for the better. Find a way in which that you can cultivate thoughts that will better your mind. See, the nice thing about being this side of the spectrum is that there's certain things that don't faze me. A lot of things don't faze me. Like Malobanyana and all Heritage Day, people are busy dressed in their attire, and I'm like, okay. People talk about FOMO, I'm like, we all know it's gonna pass in the next few months, so okay. People get love struck, and I'm like, it's not part of my list, so let's just, But I do experience anxiety like everybody else. My chest tightens, and I can't breathe, and. So eventually, obviously I went through a space where I was very destructive. So everything I had learned, I was learning. I was doing things that my dad would kill me for, that my mother would probably faint for too. But I think I was trying to prove a point that if I can do the right thing, I can also do the wrong thing. Then maybe somewhere in the gray area, then it should be fine. Then eventually, I ended up in therapy again. I can personally say that therapy has helped me because what was important was finding a therapist that you can connect with, not only at a psychological level, but at a black level. You cannot go to a white therapist and expect the white therapist to understand black problems. I told them I wanted a therapist that was young and black. I wanted somebody that if this is the situation, she won't think that I'm crazy. Because you do get therapists that are very judgmental. You get a white therapist that sits there and she's just like, Des, but this is part of black culture, you know? And instead of that therapist helping you get out of that little box, they're like, your other black people do this. Your other black, not in that sense, but you can hear that, your other black counterparts, they do this. So I said, I do not want a therapist like that. My therapist says to me, when it does, you and God won't work. You and God won't work. You and all sangomas won't work, and all of that won't work. You need behavioral changes that are subject to the mind. So she started giving me homework where I would go and engage with my own mind, sit with myself in my room in the dark and say, Des, Aravulele, what seems to be the issue? And then I created anxiety in a way that she's a person, she lives in my head and she sits in the chair and we talk. And in these talks, you tell anxiety, you are not who I am. I might compulse over my compulsions, but you are not who I am. Whatever symptoms that you bring are not me. When I'm in a situation that makes me anxious, even to this day, I tell anxiety, sit down. Sit down. And then in my mind, I can see her whimpering like a dog and sitting in her chair. Sit down. And then immediately I can feel myself coming down because I know that I'm in control of myself. And that's the nice thing about having my OCDP, is because I know everything of mine is in my head. So my therapist then prescribes a lady called Caroline Leaf. Caroline Leaf is a neurologist and she's also a pastor. Because she said that burning papers, writing down things, when are those things, the physical things, they won't work for you because when are you want to understand mentally, like how does it work in your head? So what I learned from Caroline Leaf, she says that there is you, there is your brain, and then there's your body. Many people believe that the me is the whole body, but it's not like that. The brain is an organ, and then there's you. You tell your brain how to think. You tell your brain what not to think, but you also feed your brain certain things. So if you feed them alcohol abuse or whatever, the result will be that, and it will manifest physically. So from that, I started thinking, so it means that the OCDP is in my brain, it's not me. It means that the anxiety is in my brain, but it's not me, the me that has a soul. You understand? So it means that then I can tell my brain to hi when, how. This guy is just being nice. He's not going to rape you. He's just being nice. And then the guard goes down. And the moment that I feel symptoms of anxiety in the physical form, I'm able to then go into myself and say, Des, what is wrong? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? And in that way, it manifests to my brain, and then it manifests to the physical. Guys, it's not easy. It's not. I have gone through stages where I was feeling suicidal. I've gone through depression in very small spaces. So it doesn't mean that I've gotten it right, but it means that through cognitive behavioral therapy, she has given me steps. There's watch yourself, there's this, there's that. And then I'm able, most of the time, to make it right, but sometimes I'm not. But what is important is what you feed your brain. Whether it's God, whether it's Amadlozi, whether it's fine, but whatever it is that you feed your brain, you as a person, you as a soul, it will always manifest in the physical. It will always manifest in the physical. At any point in your life, you are able to tell yourself, this is not working out. Somebody spoke about toxic people and being able to tell the toxic people to please live your life. It's important. I made a list about my lessons. Can I just go through my list before I get carried away? So I still do lists, but sometimes for purposes where Okay. Perspective is everything, like I said, everything sits in your brain. I've learned that I owe myself to keep myself calm. Somebody already mentioned that you don't have to react for everything because garbage in your brain, garbage out. So whatever you receive, if a person is angry, let them be angry. They're entitled to be angry. They're entitled to swear at you. They're entitled to do everything. But it's always your responsibility how you react to the next person. It's always your responsibility what you take from the conversation that you're getting from this person. It's okay not to be okay. I think that one is important. Mental illness makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. But it's okay not to be okay. Because who said, the maker of whoever made us, who said that this is the way that things are supposed to be? You're supposed to be a certain level of white or you're supposed to be a certain level of green. So if however you feel and whatever is happening in your life is not mainstream okay, it's okay. What feeds your soul and how you feel in the inside is more important than you looking okay. A support structure is very important. Eventually, what I did is I took real life examples. Like there was a lady called Generations that was suffering from anxiety. I think it was somebody's mother. I used that lady to educate my mom about depression and anxiety because I knew that it was important for my mother to understand what I was going through. To this day, I can tell you guys that my mother teaches other mothers about depression. It didn't happen in a year. It happened in years. But it was important because I didn't want to be in a place where I am falling apart and I have to call my mother and I still have to explain why I'm falling apart. I need the people around me to always be able to give me that support because I can say for sure that now I'm very supportive to people that have mental illness. So I wanted that. And for you to have that, you need to build that. Like I think Asbo mentioned it earlier, that you might find that your friends are very supportive, but if they do not know what to do with the whole support structure of it, then it kind of doesn't. So there's that. It's okay to take happy pills. I take happy pills. I call them happy pills because at the moment they make you very happy. I take happy pills when I need to, otherwise I go to the gym and I run it out. But there are times when it's just not possible and I take them. It's okay. Don't let anyone make you feel like because when unwa dilujela chititang batho ba hlanye, then it means when hlanye. It's fine. As long as when your soul in the inside, you know why you're doing what you're doing and it's making you happy. Although you kind of feel like shit in the morning, but still, it's okay. Because no one is doing this life thing right or wrong. As long as whatever mechanism that you're using is working, then it's fine. And then lastly, protect yourself, protect your aura. Me, at any point, even if I'm drinking, even if we're at the office, if at any moment I don't feel like I want to be in that space, I leave. Even if you're in the middle of those other things that I don't know if I should mention, if you're in the middle of cloth, if you do not feel like being there, leave. You don't even have to explain yourself. It's like, guys, we're in a state where you shouldn't care so much about what another person thinks about you because that on its own becomes toxic. Protect your aura. If a person you feel like this person is toxic to your aura, protect it at all costs. Because like she said, when you are done and you are alone, you have to deal with it by yourself. So she said prevention is better than cure. So protect your aura. Thank you guys.